All righty, welcome back to the baseball show. I'm Andy Singleton, and that, of course, is Uncle Ralph, Mr. Lifshitz. We are here to discuss three pitchers with you today. This is the pitcher episode. We want to thank everybody who's been tuning into these. We are blown away by the support and reception we've been getting. We are currently the fastest growing fantasy baseball show on YouTube, and we have only you to thank for that, for subscribing, for watching these videos, liking them, leaving your comments, and we greatly appreciate it. We don't try to tell you every move to make. We just try to give you our opinion and our advice, and basically just give you what we see from our years of experience in playing. I'm more of the old school kind of just eye test kind of guy. Ralph's more of the analytical numbers kind of guy, but together it seems to be working, and we appreciate all the support, like I said, that we've been getting. It's tremendous. I just want to remind everybody you can find us on any social media outlet you choose: Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, Reddit, Raswell, of course, where Ralph writes, you name it, we're there. Follow us, subscribe. Please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and check the player library playlist, which basically has every player we've covered to this point isolated on their own. And that's going to do it. Real quick, I just want to point out, we figured out what we're finally going to do with this. We're going to go 99 players deep, which means 2 more full weeks of episodes. And then after that, we're going to do some bonus shows where we cover everybody that people were specifically requesting that we didn't get a chance to cover in these last 3 weeks of our preseason stuff. So again, let me stop with the blabbering. Oh, I got one more thing to tell you. Once we finish with the preseason player introductions and profiles, we're going to get into our regular weekly format where we're going to have guests on, and it's going to be more of a loose show. We're going to do it live on Tuesday nights, and then we'll condense it down to a highlight clip, 20 minutes range on Thursdays. So hopefully you'll be with us throughout the season, ask questions as always, and you'll continue to watch and be a part of this. So with that being said, let's move into the 3 pitchers for today. Anthony DeSclafani, Vincent Velasquez, and Marcus Stroman. 3 guys that, as Ralph was talking to me up there, when we got into them, we found out we kind of had different opinions on them than we originally thought we might. So let's start with DeSclafani. He's currently the 61st pitcher off the board based on NFBC ADP data. That will be good for 225th overall. DeSclafani is a control pitcher who gives up a lot of home runs, and it doesn't get a ton of Ks. He also hasn't logged a bunch of innings to this point. So that doesn't sound good, but yet I find myself getting him in a lot of places, particularly in dynasty leagues. And I think that comes from him being a pitcher who still has another level he could conceivably reach, yet he's still available on the relatively cheap side. And, there's not a lot of starting pitchers, especially in dynasty leagues, that are up for grabs. So DeSclafani seems to be that guy that people are willing to give up, yet there's still room to hope that he could reach levels that people have kind of predicted for him. He's got a swinging strike rate of 9.5%, which is approaching very good levels. And that, that's a career number. That's not just a one-time thing. That's been his, consistently throughout his time in the big leagues. Now, you would think with his moderately high ground ball ratios and a very respectable K rate, he would compile a lot more strikeouts. But at 7.5 per 9, he just doesn't. And the home runs, while I said are plenty, they don't necessarily kill him, but that was helped in large part to his 78% strand rate in 2016. I personally, I'm worried that his ERA spikes a little, and his WHIP has never really been outstanding. But as the 61st pitcher being taken in redraft, and at the end of the 18th round, I still want him to round out my pitching staff. There is upside, albeit I am starting to lose a little faith in that. But like I said, I find myself getting him in a ton of places, mostly in dynasty leagues. And Ralph, what's your take with DeSclafani? Because like I said, it's a guy that we kind of feel like should be a better pitcher than he is. But if we are taking what he's giving us, then it's okay.
Yeah, I think he sounds more like he should be a great chef, like making me a nice garlicky Italian meal, something hearty. That's what he sounds like to me. But truthfully, as a pitcher, I think last year, unless there's some development in terms of sequencing, swing and miss, just he's got to find another way to attack hitters, and I think that's where the evolution of DeSclafani will come. If he remains the guy he was last year, I think last year's probably going to be as good as it gets. He could maybe get a little bit more luck on his side. He wasn't overly lucky. I think things were sort of in line for how well he pitched, but I think you brought up number one. there is some injury risk there. There is some concern that he's not ever going to be a 200 inning pitcher. I think if he was a guy that you could rely on for 200 innings, he wouldn't be all that different from somebody we talked about last week in Chris Tillman. The control is relatively good. Like you said, I think that's his strength. He doesn't get a ton of weak contact. He gives up a lot of home runs, and he's in a homer-prone ballpark. Great America Ballpark is one of the top 5, to 6 home run-friendly ballparks in the major leagues. And there's not a lot of separation in his pitchers in terms of velocity. He's sort of got the low 90s fastball. His change is in the upper 80s. His slider's in the upper 80s. And then he also throws a curveball that's in the lower 80s. His slider is definitely his best secondary offering. There were some good things. I thought there was a step forward with the swing and miss stuff slightly. As you said, the swing and miss rate, swing strike rate isn't bad at 9.5%. But there's nothing here to really get me overly excited about with DeSclafani. As I said, I think he's somebody that needs to follow sort of the Rick Porcello blueprint of attacking hitters differently with his mix of pitches and maybe taking a little bit off of the change, and just sort of picking his spots. That's where he's going to make the next step, the evolution as a pitcher. At this point, he's a guy that, in deeper leagues, I'm fine with owning at the back end of my rotation. I think he can give you some valuable innings, not bad in head-to-head leagues, but he's not somebody that I'm beating down doors to own either, though.
Right. I mentioned he's currently the starting pitcher, 61. I think the upside is that he creeps into the top 50, which would place some value on his current draft position. So I think we're in agreement that we like him, but we're not knocking down any doors to get him. If he's there, he falls to us, and he's available, we'll take him. But deeper in drafts. So this next guy, Vincent Velasquez, Vince.
V2.
Are people crazy? Why is everyone so down on Vivi? Yes, he throws hard and is susceptible to arm woes as a result of that. Yes, his ERA is always going to be high, and he gives up the long ball with ease. But his K rates are elite, and I'm talking like forever, and that ain't going to change. Plus, the Phillies' offense should be taking steps forward. Mark it down. He's going to be a double-digit winner this season. I'm guaranteeing it. Notice the pause.
Okay. I'll hold you to that.
I'm going to let you explain why you think I'm one of the crazy ones for being high on Velasquez, because from what I understand, you now have a different take.
Yeah, and it's funny because coming into the show, when you sent me over the names that were suggested by our readers, I was really jacked up to talk about Velasquez. I like Velasquez. I drafted him all over the place last year. I've been targeting him early on, and other people have been higher on him than I have. As I started to dig into the numbers, I think, when I got beyond sort of the superficial stuff that you look at, K rate, that sort of thing, I started to dig in, and there are some concerns. Now, let's get into the good first, okay? I love the stuff. He's got one of the best fastballs, a top 20 fastball in the major leagues. In terms of pitch values on Fangraphs, he rates right up there. He's got the 11.2% swing and strike rate. That is, excellent. It's a similar swing and strike rate, almost, tenths of a percentage point within Chris Sale's swing and strike rate. So that tells you all you need to know. The K per 9 last year was 10.44 in 134 innings. He's on an improving Phillies team and an improving rotation. And, you watch him pitch. I think he's eye test wise. He looks great. The stuff looks great. I worry about some of the secondary pitches. I don't think they're as crisp as they need to be. I know he's been working on the curveball this offseason, and ultimately that could really unlock, sort of the next level when it comes to Velasquez, if that can really become a serious wipeout plus pitch, which up to this point it has not been. Things I don't like about Velasquez. He's an extreme fly ball pitcher who gives up a solid amount of hard contact in an extreme fly ball hitter's park. Citizens Park obviously plays up very much in the power element. As I mentioned, the secondary offerings aren't great. So that's the big concern, is the hard contact, the fly ball rate of 41.2%. He's in the top 20 in fly ball rate in baseball. And he's he's a homer prone in a homer prone park. So that's one thing that worries me a little bit. I think you have to balance the two. The K per 9 stuff, though, is elite. I think you're drafting him for that. I'm wondering where the step up, in terms of him getting to that next, echelon, next tier of pitchers is. It's going to have to be, a change in control or the curveball on one of his secondary offerings really taking a step forward.
Yeah, Philly's a bandbox, as you mentioned. But
Yeah.
speaking of home runs, I got a comp for you. Tell me fair or unfair. Vincent Velasquez is the Giancarlo Stanton of young pitchers. How do you feel about that?
I think it's probably apropos because he's got one elite skill, and it's, fastballs and strikeouts are like home runs for pitchers, and he's injury prone. His stuff, though, is probably a little bit more nagging, a little bit more long term. He's had a few different elbow flare ups. That's always a little worrisome. Tommy John is definitely lurking behind this guy's back.
Well, he did come back nicely after there were some elbow scares last year, so we do have to give him some credit. And I think the big side going up is I think the Phillies offense is going to be sneakily good this year, which should provide him with some run support. And like I said, I'm guaranteeing double-digit wins. He's the 49th pitcher off the board, so he's right at the top 50 mark. I think there's room to believe he could, if he puts it all together, sneak into the back end of the top 30, right outside of that range. So I believe there's still a lot of upside with this guy, and I think that's value. But I can understand Ralph's concern. The next and final pitcher we're going to talk about today, though, I'm completely on the opposite end of the spectrum with him. It's Marcus Stroman. He's currently the 39th pitcher being drafted, 163rd overall. And where he's being drafted in that back end of the top 30 range, where I think Velasquez can get to, I don't think he's that good of a pitcher. I think he's, more of a top 50 guy. Now, automatically, I have an affinity for Stroman as he hails from Long Island, right here in New York, where I'm from. Despite his insanely high ground ball ratios, he led the league in 2016. He failed to reach a 20% K rate. So while I love the type of pitcher he is, I just don't love him to take another step forward in improving upon what we saw in 2016. I'm also worried about him logging another 200-plus inning season, as he's well below 6 feet in stature. I just don't know that he physically can handle that kind of extreme workload. He threw 204 innings in 2016. I think he was a little unlucky with the ERA last year, but that could also be due to exposure from having pitched that many innings for the first time in his life. Now, again, I like him as a pitcher. I just don't love him. I also believe the Jays' offense hasn't gotten any better, may even be a little worse this upcoming season. So I'm worried about just what his ceiling could be. Now, I still say chalk him up for a dozen wins, and you got a solid pitcher, not an elite one. I don't know that there's much room for upside, with the exception being a slight, improvement or bump to his ERA from last year. Now, this is somebody you have now turned the corner on in the opposite direction. So why am I wrong to have these doubts?
All right. So Marcus Stroman is a guy that I'm typically very low on, and somebody that I really haven't targeted in drafts. I did a little bit more research. I dug into the numbers a little bit more heavy than I had been. And I'm going to tell you, there were some really encouraging things. And the first thing that I saw, I'm going to credit Fangraphs for this. They had an article on it. I dug in a little bit into the article, and it actually highlighted some changes that were made mid-season within Stroman's arsenal, and in terms of his approach and the pitches that he was throwing. First off, early in the season, he was very heavy in terms of his usage with a sinker. It was close to 60% in terms of, what he was throwing. Around July, he made a slight tweak in his arsenal and his approach. What he started to do is he started to throw the sinker less in lieu of the slider. It jumped up almost 20% in terms of usage with the slider. It has an elite ground ball rate in that pitch, nearly 33% of the time that he throws it, he's generating a ground ball, which is relatively elite, in comparison to the fly balls he's getting from it. What happened over that period when he started to use the slider more? His ERA went down by a full run from close to 5 to just under 4. His K per 9 jumped by 2 whole strikes per 9 over that period. His infield fly ball rate went up 5 times what it was. It was about 2% in the first half. In the second half, it jumped up all the way to almost 10%, which is a great indicator of weak contact and getting under pitches. And his swinging strike rate jumped to an above average level as well. So there were a lot of things that I saw when Stroman stopped using the sinker so much and started to focus more on throwing the slider. His numbers moved right along, and that's why he finished the season so strongly. The other thing I want to bring up on Stroman is, yeah, he's small in stature. I know he's listed at 5'9". He might even be smaller than that. He might be more like 5'6" or 5'7". This guy's like the Dustin Pedroia of pitchers. And I think too often we get hung up on body stuff, where there's a lot of guys that are 6'6", 6'7", that have serious arm injuries and stay healthy. This guy put up an absolutely monster year in terms of, innings pitched. He said he got to that 200 inning ratio, 200 inning ceiling, broke through it. I think that's huge when it comes to any pitcher. If the guy can do it once, that tells me he can probably do it again. I'm not too worried about the wear and tear, because as the season went on, Stroman got stronger. So I really, as I dug into the numbers, I started to see some very positive trends with Stroman.
How much of your optimism, though, lies in his age? As, okay, he's still young enough to do this. If this was who he was, if this is what he is every year, which again was good, top 50 pitcher, just not a top 30 pitcher, not a top 40 pitcher. Are you still excited if he's 29 years old, putting up these numbers every year? Because then we're talking about, as you mentioned, Chris Tillman before. Then we're talking about a Chris Tillman type that's going to be decent and be a top 50 guy. So how much of that is, the excitement that you still have for Stroman built into his age and the fact that there might be another level?
Yeah, I think it's the weaker contact. It's not so much the age as much as it's an adjustment. And that's the thing that I look for with pitchers and with hitters. I know if you've been watching these series over the off season, I talked about it last week with Rich Hill, who's in his mid-30s. He's a guy that figured something out. He made a change, and going forward, the results happen because of that tweak that he made. And baseball is a game of tweaks. Doesn't matter if you're 24, 29, or 32. If you figure something out, you can get elite results for a few years out of it. And I think Stroman's trending in the right direction. So his age doesn't come into it as much as I like the changes that he made, especially, with baseball when it comes to, approach at the plate or approach from a pitcher. I think that's, one of the biggest indicators of success. And I think Stroman made the right tweaks.
All right. Well, I don't want to knock the guy too much because, like I said, he is from New York. So he's on my all New York team, Long Island division.
Nice.
He's the number one guy in that rotation. Nick Tropiano is number 2. We're going to wrap things up this week with the pitcher show. Hope you enjoyed what you saw with these 3 pitchers. Don't forget, if you're watching this right now and you enjoyed any part of it, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed to Nickel Press TV. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check the player library and go back and see any player that we've covered to this point. They're all there, individualized, alphabetized, for your convenience. Just scroll through, see who you like, pick and choose, boom, press play, and enjoy. Good luck this year. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the Baseball Show. We'll see you next time.